I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You can do it? Thank you, sir. Roll call, please.
Take 1 second. I probably should have looked at it first. Okay. It's already filled out, that's why I'm a little confused.
Oh, was it?
Somehow they knew who's going to be here as well.
Absolutely.
Mr. DiCarlo?
Here.
Oh, this is the finance.
Oh, that's why.
Sorry. All right. Mr. DiCarlo?
Here.
Mr. Hoffman?
Here.
Mr. Condit? Here. Mr. Molina?
Here.
Mr. Silverston here. Mr. Walter?
Approval of meeting minutes for May 27th, 2014.
Move to approve.
I'll second. Roll call on approval of minutes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Condit?
Yes.
Mr. Molina?
Yes.
Mr. Silverston, yes. Mr. DiCarlo?
Yes. Amendments to the agenda? Do we have any? Go into committee reports, Mayor?
One of the things I'll make a copy for everybody. This was a news release that there's no assistance granted for the state or federal government to Summit County residents for the damage from the May 12th storms. Summit County did make it a state of emergency, but it did not get the state approval. So there's some couple issues here. I had Lee, I sent it to him so he could post it on the website about some assistance for Renew Ohio, Rebuild Ohio programs that they have, plus Kristen Scalise has a program for fiscal officer down in Summit County to lower their tax bill for anybody that was hit by that problem too at the same time. We returned from Washington D.C. and I'll open it up here in a minute to everybody and they can kind of give their comments. It was again always something interesting down there. This time I think to me the most interesting thing was when I talked about the heroin problem and how it got to be this way. And hopefully we don't have that.
Maybe scary. More like it. Maybe scary.
Yeah, yeah. And other than that, I mean, it was, told them what we needed, a new vehicle for the fire department. What's it called?
Well, the pump car,
Pump car.
they call it it's a real putting name.
It's a real, it's got high tires and things like that would go to when we have water and have a big pump on the back of it to help pump out the issues like we had on May 12th. The other thing, one of the gentlemen over there, hopefully possibly set something up with the JED board and him to try to discuss some availability for some funding for new programs inside the JED or any businesses as far as that goes. But they kind of tend to lean towards high-tech type businesses if at all possible. The other thing, I don't know if anybody paid attention, but JEDs are no longer allowed. If you don't already have one, they're done. So if you said tomorrow we want to have a JED with Bainbridge or Aurora or somebody else, it would be possible. The governor signed the bill last week, outlawing JEDs. They're above the rules. Ours is perpetuity.
What was his reason for that?
The gentleman who drafted the bill to stop the JEDs is the same gentleman that created the bill to start JEDs.
Al Schrader?
No, we're not. Heck no, I don't think it's too much
Al,
money.
yeah, just
He
the
really
way
says
Al.
about 7 or more.
Yeah. You know, it's a shame. What happened was the fact of it and what they kept using it became a money grab for cities and things like that. And they did not do the JED the way we do the JED, and that we give back stuff, scholarships, roads. You look and see how much money we put into the JED up there to help make that a better area for the businesses. No, the other ones don't do that. It became just a loophole for them to get taxes. So that's why.
That prohibit renewals?
No, we're perpetuity. So, all right.
Sorry.
Yeah, when you either catch up or drop out. Right?
Yes, sir.
That's all. Anybody want to talk about?
I think just the overall atmosphere and the morning meeting where we heard about the possibilities for the JED and the heroin situation, the scandal, not the scandals, but all of the schemes that are out there from the Trade Commission, bilking people out for money, especially senior citizens. Just the general atmosphere there is impressive.
Really talk, really breathe. My nose is so stuffed up, so I'll pass. I agree with it. It was a great experience, and I think we learned a lot. And yeah, the organization that we listened to a lot was the organization called Jumpstart. They work with a number of other organizations, nonprofits, and kind of tech startups throughout the. I think it was 21 counties in Northeast Ohio. I think is what it was, and. We're going to try to set up something with the JED, with Sam, maybe bring him in and kind of do a little bit of a kind of roundtable discussion and see how they might be able to help kind of kickstart some of what's open in the JED, as well as they have another program called the Gazelle program to help companies that don't have enough funding to kind of take to the next level and they want to grow. So there's some money out there to help smaller businesses gain some capital for growth, so maybe a way to use them. So it was a great experience, good networking time.
How was the turnout compared to last year?
Larger. And I got Congressman treats. I think they treat us really well, Reminderville as a whole. They pay a lot of attention to us. That's all I got.
Thanks, Mayor. Mr. Carpenter?
So just one thing, I have had some discussions with Chief Buck about setting up a parking bureau so we can start handling some complaints in that regard. We used to have a parking bureau. This is one of the things that he and I are going around on. I want to make sure that we didn't repeal that when we went to, when we did away with our mayor's board, and make sure that we do the right thing here. So probably at the next meeting, we'll have something on the agenda with that regard.
We're talking about enforcing the overnight parking.
Right now, we can't enforce any parking, all parking.
So that's what we want to get.
It would be a place where they would cite somebody, take it on the car, they would come into PD, to whomever's in charge there, whoever bonded the officer in charge of that, and they would pay their parking fines.
So there's no need for me to call you about my daughter's graduation party and how we're gonna have cars up and down Illinois, huh?
You probably should so that I can handle the guests.
You don't want to tell him so he can handle the calls from the other people that are calling. That's all.
Thanks.
So in other words, if somebody wanted to park on, if you had parking going on both sides of the street, which obviously is safety hazard, or we get firing we have no way of citing cars for parking in the wrong areas.
You can cite them on the state code at this point on a traffic ticket, but it'll be a total problem when it got to
Yeah.
Stowe Municipal Court.
I'm just saying this is a huge safety thing.
I mean, in that particular instance, you would probably rather be interested in getting cars moved at that point in time for the safety vehicles to go up and down.
As is,
But as far as citing them, citing them's not gonna get them to move in that particular instance. So that's probably not the greatest urgency at that point in time. But what Chief Buck is saying is, we give them a ticket, Cotton Falls doesn't really wanna look at it, they don't wanna honor it. So.
And in the event of an emergency, we would tow the cars and get them out there anyhow.
Yeah,
Or the firemen would break their windows out and run the hoses through the windows.
but the ticket itself doesn't. We wanna have a mechanism where they can put a ticket on the windshield, and people have a place to go then locally and pay the fines. The schedule will be set up in accordance with Cotton Falls schedule.
I believe that we brought this to council about 6 or 8 years ago, and it was not followed through on.
I don't remember that myself. I know we had I know that I had actually done some legislation to set up our traffic bureau and our parking bureau, but that's when we had mayor's court. So the clerk of mayor's court was bonded and handled all of, waiver tickets and payment of parking tickets. So, at the very least, if our parking bureau still is valid, we still need to name somebody and get somebody bonded to fill that position.
So, just so I follow, so the fine money would go back to the county, or the Reminderville will get a portion of that?
I think you still got, Reminderville is going to get a portion of it.
Yeah, no different than a traffic ticket.
Yeah.
Do we have any say in how much that citation is?
No, Stowe
It's
Municipal.
going to be according to their schedule.
Just curious.
Thank you, Paul.
Yep.
Terry?
I made copies, so I made enough for everybody, so I just passed them out as we go through. Thank you. What I just sent around is the service department monthly summary. I was going to read it, but I'm gonna be here till tomorrow if I got everything. Keep it on there, so. So what I would like is if anybody has any questions for Sam, just let me know. Basically, on what he wrote there, and I will get back to you on what he put there.
And this is also in our box, too.
Yes, this is what I included on the computer already, so. But as you can see from the list, there's quite a bit going on with the service department, and they're trying to work through the list that we've had build up for the service department over the last couple months, so they're working on knocking that out for us. As far as the engineering department, we do have 2 pieces of legislation that were introduced. One was for the California Street design and bid, and then the Crowgasser Rec Center proposal. I know with the California Street, Aurora is working on the legislation for having the right-of-way open to us, that California Street project done. They're going to send that over to us once it's approved.
Does that one need to be done by emergency?
Probably, because we gotta get it in by end of this month.
Yeah, that need to go.
The next thing is the Pondbrook restoration. We did receive the agreement back. Paul's going to review that for us and then get that taken care of. But we were approved for the grant for the Pondbrook restoration. I don't have the numbers. I wanted to have Paul take a look at it before we make the release and everything. The Regatta Trail, we only received 1 bid for that project. It was more than 10% over what the engineering estimate was, so Gene is having his guys look at the plans and compare it to what the estimate was and see why the estimate was so high. But I know Trimore was the one that submitted the bid, and they called the day before to find out who else could get that plan, so.
Yeah, so they
They knew they could go high. But I believe at this point, Gene is going to come back with a recommendation to put it out to rebid. And for the Nautilus Trail project, they have updated the schedule. They're going to begin removing the pavement tomorrow.
They started today, they pretty much got the first layer going.
Yes, they're going to do the rest starting tomorrow. So the full removal will actually begin tomorrow. They are scheduled to begin paving on June 26th. I will be attending a progress meeting on the 17th, just to see if they're on schedule. And
Hey, Terry, on that project, on the Aurora Shores Facebook site, they had a letter from Trimore.
yes,
Streets like Skippers, both Commodore Coves, Clipper and Outrigger, did those streets get it? Because I did not receive it, and we're all part of that project.
correct. And I have asked them to send those letters to all the streets affected. I will follow up with them and find out why they're not doing it. And then there was a question of being able to get out of your driveway and stuff. I sent that question over to make sure that residents will have access.
And from what I read in the letter and what I saw today, they are leaving some fill in, like coming on the Skippers and coming on Cove West, so that you're not hitting that straight cut.
Right.
You've got a bit of a ramp. It is, actually, it's probably better today than it's been in the last 4 months, only because there's not poles, everything's down to one level, but once tomorrow happens, we'll see what it's like. But you just have to go slow and you can get through right now.
When is starting the stabilization?
That will be, stabilization begins on the 12th, so Thursday. Yeah. So
That's a pretty aggressive, that's an aggressive schedule.
And they're gonna start paving that on what day?
The 26th is what the revised schedule
And
is.
what's their time frame for that, for the main road surface?
They're still claiming that they will finish with paving close to the 4th. But
Still no clear.
That won't be the aprons or anything else, that's just the main
no,
surface.
that's just the surface.
And with regard to the residents getting in and out, there'll be residents that are affected that cannot get in their driveways for several days at a time while they're doing the aprons. I had a meeting with Marty a couple days ago.
Okay, so they did not tell us that yesterday. But,
That's what Marty told me, I don't know, if it changed since then, but it makes sense to me.
yes,
See, that's where having some kind of parking in effect, we can regulate, just tell people park on non-fire hydrant side of the street, because once we get to that point, people could end up parking on both sides of the road and again create a problem with safety issues if you have multiple.
But they're not gonna be able to park anywhere on the concrete, so they're gonna have to park on the other side of the road. That's what,
Well, when they do the aprons though, the roadway itself will already be done.
true.
Sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
well, that was all I had. I will follow up with them about the notification letters, make sure that,
Yeah, everybody that's driving on that to get out of their driveway needs to know. It's not gonna change anything, but it's peace of mind for people to know what's going on, what the time frame is, and what's gonna happen.
okay,
So will there be any notification letters around parking while they're working on the aprons?
We're gonna work we're gonna work through that with them, because it's still up in the air. And Marty's estimation of completion was like July 20th, July 25th, so,
A little different.
right.
and he's the one that said it before yesterday, so.
Well, you're talking aprons and everything.
I'm talking aprons and everything.
Okay.
You're talking just the main surface.
Sorry.
Okay, sorry.
You had mentioned that Trimore called the day before and asked who had picked up.
Yes,
We don't have to tell them that, do we, Paul? We don't have to answer that question, do we?
Public record?
it's public record if they call.
Of how many people have picked up bids?
Can you at
The
least
public record, you can't show them the bids themselves once they, they can't take an early peek.
Paul,
But-
can we say, you're gonna have to come up here and find out?
No.
Do we have the, you know what I mean?
No, you don't have a right to ask who it is, it's a public record request.
No, I understand, but
They don't have to have
you
a
can make it
reason.
over the phone, you can't come in, you have to make it in person.
Public record request has to be made in any type of form that they wish.
That just seems odd, that that's a public record request to me. I don't know, it just, how many bids came in, I can see being a public records request, but how many people took out? Okay. Thought I'd ask.
I will say that during a bidding process, I get probably 5-6 calls a week from people wanting to know how many people have picked up the plans, so. It's not just Tri-Mark,
It's obviously a common practice.
Part of the business.
Right. Just say, I don't know, I'm not the one who passes them out. The person who does isn't here.
Right.
Always.
Okay, that was all I had.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a report from Deborah?
I don't have anything to report.
Chief Buck?
First and foremost, I'd like to say, anytime anybody makes a public records request to the police department, file it, fill it in a proper manner for the tape. With regard to 4th of July,
I just didn't know if that was a public, that's all.
the mayor has informed me what the parade route is. We'll have 2 vehicles for that. And it's still what we talked about?
Yep.
The community garden and the hose is going well. The barrels are being full. Everything seems to be working out well there. And with regard to fun days in 2 weeks,
21st.
in 2 weeks, we have equipment scheduled for that, and we're gonna close the road for them. And the canines will be available and everything that they've requested for that. Safety Town, I talked with Stacy yesterday, is, according to her, she's not here today, but according to her yesterday, everything was planned and organized and ready to go. We're providing what we need, what she needs for that, and that's gonna start on Monday. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Plunkett.
As I mentioned in the finance meeting, you already heard from the USDA, we're gonna be turned down, can't even apply for the grant for the pump. So we're going to apply for a FEMA grant, this year's FEMA grant, and the mayor's gonna give me pull some strings in Washington. So that'll be later on down the road before we find anything out about that. And the only other thing I wanted to clarify is recently we had to cite a homeowner, first time in my time as fire chief that we've cited anybody for open burning. I had the police department come over and cite a homeowner for open burning, and I just wanted to clarify the differences. You know, I don't have a problem at all with any of the residents that have a little fire in their backyard and they're cooking a hot dog or having a beer and they got a small backyard fire. That's not a problem. We get calls to go respond to those all the time, and when we see what they're doing, no problem, we leave. He was simply clearing out the backwoods and piling up the brush and burning it. And that you can't do. We've had individuals in the past that have torn down old sheds or tore down, took all the asphalt shingles off the roof and wanted to burn them in the backyard. You can't do that sort of thing. So you won't be allowed to just burn yard waste as a method of disposal. But this individual wasn't the first time that we went over there to respond to this exact same complaint. That's why he ended up getting a citation. It was 5 times in 3 weeks that we responded over there for the exact same thing. And we warned him repeatedly not to do it. And
Can you
So
say
I
what
even went-
street it was on?
it was on North Surfside Circle. I went over myself once and talked to him personally and said, listen, this is ridiculous, this is the 4th time we've been over here and we're not coming back again, it'd be nice. If you come back again, we're bringing these guys in, they're not so nice. So, they showed up with the police and the cited, which ended up being a very expensive fine, I think your officer told me, chief, wasn't it $400?
Up to.
So it was an expensive fine, so. Just wanted to clarify that, if any of the residents have any issues or wanna know, you wanna have a little backyard bonfire, no problem. Can't pile up brush and burn it off as a method of disposal.
works out well for the fire department when they show up and say, no, that's okay, but then when they wanna cite them, they have us do it. It works out real good for them.
We usually leave. We leave while the citation's going on, because that's when everything gets ugly. We don't have any bulletin press on that, so.
That actually reminded me something when you brought that up. Did any of you get a call on Saturday night, I think? Actually Sunday morning, like 1:30, some loud bangs, and it turned out they were fireworks, but it was on Harrington, it looked like it was Harrington. Did you get called?
Yeah, we responded to a fireworks call there.
You did? Forgot all about that.
Did you ask the fire department to come and help you?
No, there wasn't anything on fire, they were sleeping.
Any?
Architectural Board of Review.
ABR met on May 28th. We approved 8 decks, 1 fence and a shed, and we had 2 no-shows, which we tabled until next meeting. That's it.
Thank you, Mark. Planning and zoning.
No, well,
We met yesterday.
I don't know if you wanna talk about it.
Yeah,
Is it on here?
Here, no,
Or did you do business or something?
I don't know, maybe
It's not on here.
we met yesterday, approved phase 3 of the final plat for Liberty Ledges.
That should be in here. I sent
And-
it down
We also, that everybody should have in their box, a letter from Bob Rodick referring to doing for the decks you guys are getting on the rear setbacks. They want to do, Bob has no problem with doing,
A blanket variance.
a blanket variance for anybody who that deck is going to affect. We discussed it at planning and zoning yesterday, and I don't know, can that open up a can of worms?
No, Billy, and here's why, there's some uniqueness to the affected lots that he's talking about. He's talking about more than a handful of lots, but it's just a small number of lots based on the location of the residence and the shape and size of the lot. Creates some kind of, not quite a hardship, but it's a difficulty, a practical difficulty for him, particularly the way the house is built. And he's only offering and suggesting this for that limited number. He sets out the lots.
Just the ones in 5 and 6?
Yeah,
4 and 5. 4 and 5, okay.
And it's not all of them, there's only a couple of streets, and he enumerated which lots are
Yeah,
affected.
they're specific on
And
the
I
left.
drafted a piece of legislation for review. Stacy's not here, so she probably didn't get through it. But, he spoke with me prior to the meeting, and went through the whole idea with it. And it saves a little bit of time for these people, instead of coming to a meeting a month down the road, and then, saves some time and effort on the committee members too, and the board and commission members,
And
so
money
that they
to
don't
residents.
have to continue to hear these all the time.
Saves money to residents.
Mhm.
That basically residents getting punished for something that they have
Right.
they had no control over.
A lot of these lots in Harrington,
They're all in here.
because when I started on the ABR, you'd get a site plan and you'd have a nice rectangular backyard, and the setback on your deck was the same all the way down, and now we're getting lots with 4 and 5 sides on, 5 and 6 sides on them,
Yeah, that's
diamond
what's
shaped, and
one lady has like a 4 foot, she can only build about a 4 foot deck. The other one has about a 2 foot deck.
Mine's a 2 foot, and I'm not even in one of those spaces. I have 2 feet.
Part of the whole idea of the Harrington thing was, to protect the environment, to have more green space. The lots were shrunken a little bit, and everything was, the residence portions were squeezed in a little bit so that there was adequate drainage and adequate green area. It's an environmental
That's because we got that
development.
3 per 1 acre.
Yeah, yep.
Maybe we need to-
And Bob did a nice investigation into it and looked at it and made a suggestion, and I'm completely fine with it. And I actually drafted some legislation I thought would be here, but it'll be off on the next meeting.
And Bob did say that he is available for a meeting to meet with council and the board together if necessary, if we wanna talk about it more.
I think, if, you know,
Which I think we probably should, instead of just, well, obviously, we don't have the legislation with us anyhow, but.
the legislation basically just incorporated his memo into it, you know, approved the blanket variance for those limited circumstances set forth in his memorandum, so,
So you're going from the 25 to the 12 and a half feet?
yes. Just for those particular lots.
Does-
Because of their
And
uniqueness.
each one of those lots have been personally inspected by him, so it's not affecting neighbors and.
I don't want to speak for him, but I'm going to say yes, because he enumerated them in there.
Because I wrote back a note back when I saw it, and that was my only question, has someone actually looked at all of these lots to make sure it's not having a negative effect on neighbors?
You know,
That's the only thing I'd be concerned
I
about.
think he addressed part of that in there, the location, and I don't know that any of these people had neighbors that would be affected by it. You know, they abutted up against the back of the
Right,
face or
and
whatever.
that's all that was worried
Yeah,
about.
They butt up against other neighbors.
Those are the ones that were concerned, yeah, where the rear yards backed up to rear yards.
What about
There's
any,
no wetland.
will we have problems with the
Not
four
right now,
variances
no.
that were already granted with those people coming back and wanting
no.
money back or anything?
You know, the variances are only granted typically if there's a uniqueness to them, or if there's a difficulty or a hardship, depending on if it's a use or an area variance. But there still has to be a uniqueness to your situation that is not similar to the rest of the development or the rest of the village or whatever. So he has deemed that these particular lots will qualify for a variance if the homeowners came in piecemeal or all together or whatever. He's trying to streamline the process.
And you got people that wouldn't be able to start a deck till the end of July. or something.
Right.
Right.
Okay. All right, we'll go right into Board of Zoning Appeals then.
Our meeting this month has been canceled. You know, just to make a comment about that, I fault the builder because those lots that are like that, they should never been allowed to put that big of a home on those lots, because most people do want a deck, I mean.
Well, you got a
No,
sliding
reality.
glass door
And
behind
they
behind all
These
the town.
big monstrosities on these lots that are good for nothing.
And to me, that's the
Basically.
big problem, is that they put these sliding, I mentioned that to the mayor, you know, they put these sliding glass doors in there and they go to
They go to your easement,
nowhere.
basically.
They go to nowhere, so.
Into,
Most of the time,
into
they
a
have
water
them boarded over,
retention.
so you can't open them.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you have to open it, you jump over that part, you have to get out of the house when it's on time,
Right.
hope you don't trip.
Take a dive.
exactly.
Another thing we talked about at planning and zoning yesterday, as we go through phase 7, we can make sure that every one of those homes that they're building will be able to put a deck on the back, or they change the footprint of the home that's going on that lot. You know, we looked at phase 7 yesterday, and the houses were on there, and it looks like they have a big backyard. And you look at the whole thing, and you go, yeah, every one of those could have a deck, until the actual measurements are done, and you find out you can't. So, you know, if we tell them up front, you know, if you're putting that sliding door on, or you're having that rear door, then we're anticipating a deck, and you gotta be able to let the homeowner build that deck.
And the one we approved, the side yard, I mean, it literally went down into a gully. There was no.
It must have been my house. Yeah.
I mean,
I did the same
something like that, what did they end up building, how deep out, do you remember?
We granted them 5 foot, I think.
You know, we say that's one of the issues. They're getting 12 and a half feet, and we've been going 5
Well,
to 10
it
feet.
was gonna make their deck 15 foot, but we gave them
Right,
the
but
5
we only
foot
gave them a
variance.
5-foot variance. And a lot of them put their steps off to the side, so they wouldn't have to step into that gully that you're talking about. So it affected the design of their deck.
Thank you, Mayor. Finance?
Finance met today before this meeting. We recommended payments in the amount of $45,045 and 67 cents. And that is all. Did you, Mario? Something else?
Jeff, go ahead.
I forgot to mention during my report that I want to thank Tom for providing an air tank and a mask for, we have a new officer that just got certified statewide for meth lab remediation, and he's now certified. They did 117 of them last year here in the community, and so they're quite busy. He's one of the guys on the team. He needs a, what do you call it, Tom? What's the thing, the mask in the tank called?
Self-contained breathing apparatus.
And so Tom's actually gonna provide that for him, so we don't have to, as well as he's gonna service it for us as it's needed to be changed out.
Who's the officer?
One of the officers.
Oh, you can't say who?
Can you rephrase how you put that?
Which one?
About the
About
116 in the community.
In the community, yeah.
The 117 in Summit County.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
that's a big difference.
Yeah,
117, and that counts.
Because when you say community, we think
I thought you meant.
117 run around the reminder.
I consider that we're with all the community, but Summit County.
But we're the best kept secret, so please don't.
Right.
Somebody told me yesterday that we made the best place to live.
Great place to
On the on the internet or somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Came out last weekend.
On the internet?
#1 place to live for housing or something like that.
No,
Well, it's gotta be true.
we're the fastest growing in the state of Ohio.
Somebody, it was something else.
Richfield-
Somebody rated
Richfield's
this
got #1.
as the nicest place to live, or the safest place to live, or something like that.
Oh, of course the safest place.
Right.
Look, you should see his face up here when he said that. He had a bad beer.
Best place to have a heart attack, best response time.
There you go.
There you go. Feel better? Thank you.
You're welcome. Cable? No report. Communications?
Communications met on the 2nd. We discussed, we're gonna probably move forward with working with, again, a local guy here in Twinsburg to redesign our site. We wanna make it a little more intuitive, a little easier to navigate, information kind of right there in your face that you need. So we're looking at doing that. The new resident kits continue to go out. We'll try to continue to promote the app as best we can, and hopefully start crafting a way to help out with the rec center as we get moving along.
I keep meaning to ask you, and I haven't, how are you getting the list of new residents to get the kids?
So there's 2 ways. For resale, Stacy belongs to the Legal Times, or gets updates from Legal Times, so that's where we find out or get information on resale. Those actually have been the harder ones, because we don't know who they're, if it's someone who's flipping a house or something, so I've a lot of times went there, no one's there, stuff like that, it doesn't even look like anyone's there, but then, when we get a certificate of occupancy for the new homes, so those are really our 2 methods right now. And she sends them once every like 2 weeks.
Someone takes the kid to the house?
Me.
Thank you.
No problem.
Long-term community development? No report. Recreation?
Parks and Rec will meet next Wednesday, the 18th. Chief Buck's already hit on the big 3 things, the Family Fun Day, 4th of July, and how the community gardens is going well. And the only thing I wanted to add was that, as you all know, this Family Fun Day was a brand new idea that the ladies came up with. And I wanna thank everybody for how cooperative you've been to help make this work. You know, it's a first time event, kinda like a tree lighting ceremony, we don't know what to expect, but everything we've asked for, everybody's been great. And Mark's been a big help too, and I just wanna say thanks.
Records?
No report.
Seniors?
Seniors, lunch was today at Simon's in Brecksville, was 6. And our next breakfast will be at the Coffee Cup in Bedford on Wednesday, June 25th. And I believe that's the last of the day on my chart. We've got a new outings chart coming up.
I left you a report in your mailbox.
Yeah, I got the envelope, I didn't.
Okay, it's in the envelope.
Two of the dates are wrong, but you can figure that out. They're Wednesdays instead of Tuesdays.
Okay.
And it was supposed to be Tuesday, so just back up a day. The first two were incorrect.
And that's that.
Thank you.
Jed?
Jed met last Tuesday at the Township Hall. Wasn't too much discussed. Mark and the mayor touched on the Jumpstart group, I guess, that they met in Washington. We also discussed a company who asked for a tax abatement. Graphics by Design was trying to get some of their penalties and interest knocked down, but it actually came to us after the fact. The tax abatement board had already approved the reduction of the penalty, I guess, or elimination of the penalty. We also discussed a couple companies with their joint tax break agreements, but no action was taken on those. And our next meeting will be the first Tuesday of September, 7 o'clock here at the Village Hall.
Well, that forgiveness you might want to explain.
What's that?
You had a payment program to set up within so many days.
Yeah.
Otherwise, all those penalties go back.
Oh, okay.
Well, to that point, it was a surprise. I think Sam had brought it up because he was texting with Deborah. We had no idea. We were actually discussing it to hopefully give a recommendation to tax moving forward. So there was definitely some miscommunication there. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. But yeah, if there's we didn't get the whole skinny on what the.
But our recommendation, I mean, the way you could tell by the way the meeting was going, our recommendation would have been what you finally resolved to do anyway. But there was supposed to be a different process, was our understanding.
So if they don't pay, in how long then the penalties go back?
Correct.
Do we know how long?
I do. Those are somewhat confidential proceedings, and I don't remember on top of that, I think we gave him 3 months, 90 days. It was a sizable amount.
We saw it.
Yeah.
But if it was supposed to be a confidential proceedings, it wasn't confidential at the JED meeting. I just meant, I think we have to get it organized so that we know what the restrictions are and so forth.
Maybe what we did was, but what the report that you had wouldn't have been confidential because it came through the jail.
And you actually come up with the actual agreement and payment and stuff, and that's.
We don't have an agreement with him, we make an order, basically.
Well, right, and the JED wouldn't do that, so.
But I just thought it should be made clear it wasn't forgiven.
That's correct.
Okay.
On the larger ones, we rarely forgive them. We always put some time constraints on them. So, I mean, the guy wanted 9 months or something to pay it, and I said, no.
Thank you.
We'll go into legislation, table legislation will remain tabled. Ordinance 13/2014, an ordinance to transfer $50,316 from the general fund 1,000 to the fire vehicle acquisition fund 2908 and declaring an emergency first reading. Ordinance 14/2014, an ordinance to approve and adopt revised Heritage Hall policies and procedures, first reading. Everyone should have a copy of that in the box, and basically all that's changed is we put rental fees in. Resolution 42/2014, a resolution declaring it necessary to improve in the village of Reminderville the entire length of Dury Court, Penny Lane, Fenmore Lane, Morley Lane, Kerwick Court, Pension Court, Townley Court, Landing Lane, and Joyce Court by grading, draining, curbing, resurfacing, paving, constructing driveway, apron, storm sewers, and storm water drainage facilities, and landscaping together with related site improvements, all together with the necessary
Appurtenances.
thank you, appurtenances thereto, and acquiring any real estate or interest therein required therefore, and declaring an emergency second reading. Resolution 46, 2014, a resolution to authorize and direct the village engineer to design and prepare construction documents for the California Street Waterline Replacement Project pursuant to the agreement with the City of Cleveland Division of Water, and to thereafter proceed with the bidding process, first reading. Resolution 47, 2014, a resolution to accept the proposal of Crockesser Engineering, Inc. to serve as owner's representative with regard to the Recreation Center project for an amount not to exceed $24,500, first reading. Old business.
I'd like to bring up something, I guess this could be considered old business. I just like us to, as a council as a whole, to try a little harder not to pass things by emergency. I think that's been part of the issue we've had with the public a little with some of these items, is that it looks like we're just passing through because we don't want to talk about them and stuff like that. So I just like us to try to be a little more cognizant of having things go to 30 readings.
Well, that's-
Obviously, what's that?
It's bad timing on that, considering we're going into summer now.
One meeting. I know,
I'm
but
just saying.
so you start something now, you'll finish in September. I realize that,
But it's a good point.
but we just, I didn't say everything, you know, we can't pass things by emergency, but I think we've gotten kind of away from that. I know we tried really hard, I know when we first came on 4 years ago, me and Mark, and, well, Matt's not here anymore, but anyway, I just wanted to say that, I think that would alleviate some of the issues we've been having lately.
Even if we pass it though by emergency after the second or third reading, especially after the second reading, at least there has been some kind of a time sequence there.
Right.
This summer, so I think that's helpful.
It
I don't
gives the
know.
residents some opportunity, at least, like you said, even if it's a second reading, at least to go home and think about if they have any questions about anything.
I'm not sure if this is under old business or new business or whatever, and that's the resolution 47, 2014. I was fine with it until I got to the last phase, which dealt with the fact that what services were not part of the agreement and how that would have to be an additional contract. Do we have any idea how that contract will be arrived at, when we'll be hearing what those numbers might be, and exactly what those involvement is? Because it seems to me it almost goes hand in hand.
Yeah, he has a contract when he presents this,
And when will that be presented to us?
whenever you want it, I would imagine.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
You talking about Gene's contract?
Yeah.
It should have been attached to this.
Should have been attached to the resolution.
Yeah,
If it was, I didn't see it.
it may not have been.
It wasn't. Maybe I'll have Stacy put it in the mailbox.
That'd be great. And we're not passing that by emergency, correct? That's just the first reading.
Anybody else old business? New business?
We're talking about this.
I have
47. Yeah, it's in your box.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there was
It was,
separate,
it wasn't in the,
separate from the
it's in the
legislation.
box.
Was it put in late, because I don't think it was there at 2 o'clock.
It was under, it's a
It
separate.
had to be before 2
Stacy
o'clock, but
wasn't
Stacy
here.
hasn't been here.
Yeah,
Or,
that's right.
she got her
I'm
foot
not
operated.
so sure it's that.
Okay.
But real quick, something under new business, and just to bring this up now, cause it's, I don't know if anyone's looked at their charter lately, but the first,
I need to get
you're all over it?
Yeah, charter review board.
Yeah, so we need 5,
Residents that aren't on any other committees to be part of the charter review.
right? And obviously it's important because it's the first one, so it's an imperfect document, as I think we can all attest, so hopefully,
Yeah.
So, I mean, Sam, do you want us to maybe throw any ideas?
Absolutely.
You have people
Nope.
in mind?
Believe me. Nobody wants to be on the charter
Well,
review.
January will be here before we know it.
Yeah.
I have 2 people
Okay.
that
Where's,
may be interested.
where's what?
Addition.
Oh, I thought you meant the, I just.
Okay, and what I'm referring to is under task number 5. The following services are included in the fee shown. And then at the the end, it says, note, this proposal does not include contract administration, construction observation, or owner's representation during construction. Now, if they're going to be involved in that before we vote on this, I'd like to have an idea of what's going to happen with that. That's the part of the contract that he makes a note to, but we have, to my knowledge, we have no idea what that may involve. Typically, what you might see there would be an hourly billing rate or something. You wouldn't just leave that blank. That's how I feel about it.
Okay, well, you can ask him when he's on vacation this week.
But the, just contract administration would be helping send out, putting the bid packages together and, right?
That, and I'm going to, I'm assuming it would include the construction meetings, doing the observations, or if he's gonna be charging us extra for that, I think we should know what that is.
I got two things for new business. Everybody have a chance to look at the flowers to the village.
Absolutely.
We talked about some of them and we're
Fine.
Very happy. The hanging baskets look awesome. The roundabout is the best it's looked since it's gone in.
I'll tell you that Laura wishes she was at the meeting tonight because she was going to comment on the fact that it really spruces up the village.
Okay.
It's a must say for her.
And just those baskets on the telephone poles as you come around.
Other than a couple that are a little low.
There.
That was I called Sam, I go, what did they measure from the pole? Because they need to do it from the street level instead of the pole. But yeah.
But there's been a big improvement since our
The gazebo got
full-timers have
painted.
gone on.
I was gonna say, just driving through the village, I see the guys out doing stuff all the time.
And it looks good. I mean, the grass looks like it's been mowed differently, which I'm sure it is. There's more attention to detail, less trash.
It's
on
killing my
grass.
allergies, but yeah, it's really great.
Keep your windows rolled up, maybe.
The other thing I got is, I got an email from Anthony Paul. Does anybody know that name?
Nope.
Anthony Paul is the young man that was on The Voice from Twinsburg. And he is going to have a free concert at the Square, and his first album is coming out. I forget what day it is, it's like on a Saturday or something like that. Well, Twinsburg Township gave him $5,000 to help him. And he would like to know if the village would mind giving him some money towards it. He needs $7,000 total. And I told him I would bring it to council and see.
And this is for what? What's the 7,000 exactly for?
He's putting a free concert on down there.
It's the cost of putting a concert in.
Then it's not free for everybody.
Yeah, right.
Well, free
Free
for
for attendees.
residents. Here, let me,
But he's looking for sponsors, right?
here, let me pull him up. He's on Kickstart, if anybody's familiar with Kickstart. Okay, I'll read the whole thing, I guess. Let me explain what's going on. As you may have heard, or we'll start hearing, I am the local Twinsburg resident and resident Twinsburg High School graduate, Anthony Paul, who just last season was on season 5 of the show The Voice, and we hold my first debut EP, which is a mini CD release concert on Saturday, July 12th at the Twinsburg Township Square. It will also be performing at the first annual Taste of Twinsburg, June 21st, and I couldn't be any more excited. It's shaping up to be a great show for the community to join. It's a free admission concert for all who attend. I really want to do something for my city as a way to say thank you for the amount of support that I received my endeavors on The Voice. I believe that this is the first show of its kind to be in Twinsburg, and I'm very excited to debut my very own original music and concert show right here in my hometown. A concert of this caliber can be very expensive. The Twinsburg Township has already graciously sponsored the event and contributed $5,000 to help some of the costs of the show. The money that I'm trying to raise goes directly to paying the bills of the show. I need to pay concert costs such as lighting, sound, costumes, staging, band expenses, background singers expenses, backup dancers expenses, I'm currently studying music business with a BA in science at Elmhurst College in Chicago. And one important lesson I have learned is that when trying to put on a big show, you need to reach out to people for help. So I'm asking if you could please donate to my Kickstarter campaign. I have to raise $7,000 by June 23rd. Please contribute anything you can, spread the word, and speak to the colleagues. I really want to do something great for the Twinsburg community, but I can't do it alone. And then he's got his concert flyer here, if anybody wants to see his flyer. So I told him I would bring it to council.
Is he from the township or from the city?
I'm thinking he must be from the township. Does anybody ever watch, did they watch The Voice? Yeah. He was very good. Did you watch it?
Did you watch him there?
See him? It's good.
How did he finish?
He made it to what, one or two rounds?
Right. He was just at the beginning of it.
I guess we get to test your theory, Tom. We will be passing this by emergency if we do it. What did you say, June?
Well, we don't actually have legislation, so we just
Pass it
make a
by
motion. We just do a motion now and then have legislation.
Yeah.
Well, it's due by the 20,
So we
Even worse.
Just, you know, I mean, you're not gonna be able to have another meeting, just pass it, yea or nay by motion. To make a donation to a Kickstarter concert or whatever.
He has a whole thing, if you wanna go to Kickstarter and type in Anthony Paul, explaining all of it.
so he needs $7,000, he's got 5, that leaves 2, and we don't know what Twinsburg's put in, so.
I would have thought Twinsburg would donate since they're sponsoring this taste of.
Right.
No, that's the township, isn't it?
We're all doing taste, all three of us are doing taste of Twinsburg. We've all put in money for a taste of Twinsburg. And they've gotten backing from everybody else too, all the restaurants and stuff. Actually, it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be a pretty big event for the first time. The young lady that's running it is, she works for Channel 8. Right, I can't get out of this, and I can't let you hear it.
So what's the pleasure?
There he is. So,
Plug it up to our projector.
What's the pleasure?
Does anybody have something they wanna?
Do a roll call, or do a roll call later on, do you want to donate, and then determine what we want to donate, depending on how that vote goes. Can we do that?
You know, straw votes aren't really received well, not proper.
What's the best?
But, you know, if you could do almost the same thing by saying, you know, Mark, you in favor of it? You know.
Mark, you in favor?
So, or you just make, somebody can make a motion and wanna donate,
Right.
I
The
wanna
motion
throw them
has
out.
to be made in the other meeting.
And the other, oh, that's true.
Okay, well, let's think about it and then we'll bring it up in the next meeting.
Okay, all right.
You can get all the time to have a meeting that's not in public.
All right, any other new business?
I make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Roll call on adjournment.
Take 5 minutes and we'll start the next one.
Alright, Mr. Condick,
Yes.
Mr. Molina,
Yes.
Mr. Silverston, yes, Mr. DeCarlo,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
This council is that.
You adjourn?
Twinsburg, yeah.
What's that? Somebody's doing one. They're doing a separate one.
You guys watch The Voice, huh?